Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. This is my show. We've been doing this for, 4.5 years or so, maybe 5 almost. Anyway, we've always tried to do a live show, and it's Tuesday night. That's usually when we do it. Tuesday at 6 p.m. You know where to find us. And we're going to talk about what you want to talk about and a little bit about what I want to talk about because, hey, it is my show. If you want to talk about exactly what you want to talk about, then we got to go to our Patreon show, which immediately follows this at 7 and shortly after 7, I guess. But since Frank and I have already dined on our dinner this evening, there'll be a quick turnaround to the Patreon show immediately following this. So I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Obviously, if you have joined us before, you know my name's Scott. I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney. Been doing it going on 28 years. Long time. Seen a lot of stuff. Some days very frustrating. Some days very rewarding. More frustrating than rewarding on lots if you went by a scale of day by day. But that's okay. When you deal with other people's problems and your job is to help people solve their problems, there's going to be ups and downs because you're not always going to get what you want, particularly when you have clients that are always in the best bargaining position, so to speak, because they've usually got themselves into a situation. But my experience is most of the people are good people, only truly met true evil a couple of times. So, like I said, I've been doing this for 28 years, seen a lot. Do I have all the answers? Yeah, probably not. Wouldn't lie and tell you I had all the answers, but we usually call it pretty close to being correct. And if I get it wrong, guess what? I'll tell you I got it wrong. But like all things in life, just like in the real world, whether you're giving advice to your kids or giving advice to your clients, the bottom line is you make the best decisions you can. You give the best advice that you can based upon the information that you have. And then you adjust. If new information comes in, new facts change, you adjust what you need to do. That's like life. It's called being intellectually honest. That's why I kind of don't like politics so much, is because some people will ride that bad fact to the bitter end and they will simply ignore all the rest of the world out there. And as an attorney, particularly as a criminal defense attorney, you can't avoid those bad facts. You have to deal with them. You have to see if you can overcome those bad facts or whether they're just too bad to overcome, and maybe you need to get a deal for your client. That's what it comes down to. So we like to talk about what's going on in the news. And so we have a couple of things I want to talk about tonight. First off, and I have ordered Frank to give me hard breaks to go to our profit centers so that, we can afford to keep the channel going, keep the lights on here at night, so to speak. So we're going to take a hard break. And if I say we're going to take a hard break, it means I got to break away. Anyway, we're going to talk first about the Alec Murdaugh sentencing. Now, I don't know if you all watched it, but we brought it to you live today. Oh my God. Would somebody stop that man from talking? He was killing me. And he was lucky that the judge wasn't going to reject his stipulated 27-year deal to resolve all of those charges and all of the indictments where he defrauded all those individuals out of money through his position of authority and trust as the attorney handling their case. And he was very, very deceitful to all of those individuals. And, as somebody that has been the victim of a financial crime by somebody that I trusted, i.e. my bookkeeper, my office manager, it hurts. It hurts because you trusted somebody. My particular situation, the person was referred to me. I knew his brother going all the way back to high school. He would never do anything like that, right? You could trust him until you wake up one day and all your money's gone and you find out the bills weren't getting paid. right? And just like these people, $20 million. Where did it all go? $20 million, allegedly what Alec Murdaugh swindled from his clients. And, you can say he used drugs, and he can say he used drugs, and I'm sure he did use drugs. But the reality of it is that there's no way he smoked or snorted or inhaled, ingested $20 million worth of money. I want to know, where did all the money go? It's always been the big secret. Where'd it go? Because he spent it. He bought that beautiful property, Moselle, where he's been convicted of, doing terrible things to his wife and son. They had another property up there in Edisto Beach, not exactly cheap. I think it was another $1 million beach property, plus another property in town where he lives there. And once again, that's even if $3 million, but $20 million gone. Yeah. So want to talk about that. We'll go in a little more greater detail, and we'll take a look at your questions and comments and see what you have to say about that. But then I want to talk about the Suzanne Morphew case. This case goes back to Mother's Day back in 2020. And obviously they recently found the remains of Suzanne Morphew, and her husband, Barry, had been charged, and the charges have been dismissed. And it doesn't look like they're going to refile him. But I also want to talk about what is going on as it relates to the prosecutor in the case. We brought you the stories. We've been kind of following this. And, I think she's in big trouble. I think she could realistically lose her license to practice law. And she certainly did not handle the Barry Morphew case proficiently. And it sounds like there's tons of issues as it relates to her handling or running of the office over there in Salida as well. So we will talk about that. And then I have some other stories that we didn't get to today in today's show. But, you just can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. And obviously we know, these true crime aficionados that, what's the word I'm looking for? We love this stuff. And we want to know, why do people do it? That's always my biggest, as client. Why did you think you were going to get away with this? Why did you think this was going to be a good idea? Right? And sometimes the explanations are like, oh, okay, well, I guess I can kind of see how you thought that. And sometimes you get explanations, you're just like, wow, that makes no sense to me. And like, what rational thought process did you engage in to think that you were going to get away with it? And in today's world, it is so difficult to get away with anything. Seriously. And we're not encouraging people to commit crimes. We certainly are not. But there is so much data out there that will help convict everybody. Your phones. We've talked about this. Your phones, man. This is a walking piece of evidence that you are carrying around with you. Guess it's not walking, but it's walking with you. You're carrying around the greatest tool of inculpatory evidence against you if you are engaging in crime. Not encouraging people to do that, but I'm just telling you, this little bad boy, I think somebody could make a fortune if they came up with an app that, would put their phone, you could basically put it where you want it to be, manipulate all the data. Not saying to do that, but, for legitimate purposes, maybe sell it to the government so their people could get around and things like that, maybe along those lines. But these cell phones, so I just don't know why people do it. And literally, I've had cases, I've seen cases where people will commit a crime and they'll start texting people afterwards. Hey, you're not going to believe what I did. You're not going to believe what I did. All right, so we'll talk about that. When we come back, we'll talk about the Alec Murdaugh case. Then we'll get into Suzanne Morphew right after this hard break. We'll be back in, 30 seconds or so. Please go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about, what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to crimetalksearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched, and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did. All right, we're back. Yes, crimetalksearch.com. I'm telling you, if somebody's coming into your life these days, and if you ever watch this show and you hear the stories of people, sometimes somebody has no criminal history and they're just going to do something, right? But usually, like lots of things in life, usually the past performance is indicative of future results. There's been something before that. This gives you some sort of key. You may not never know, but check it out. It can't hurt, right? Information is power, ladies and gentlemen. And hopefully the background check comes back and the person coming into your life, whether, someone you're going to begin dating, maybe, that boyfriend that your kids are, your daughter's going to date and vice versa, your son or daughter. The reality of it is, go check them out. What does it hurt? Go check out their family. If they're going to be spending any time over there, you just never know. So go to crimetalksearch.com. All right. So like we said, Alec Murdaugh got sentenced today, and, it's a financial crime. I have talked about this before. Financial crimes oftentimes are treated as well as not as serious as violent crime. And I have mixed feelings about that. Yes, it's not like you went out there and, bludgeoned somebody and they're going to have a traumatic brain injury the rest of their life. But I have seen cases where people have had their complete life savings stolen from them. Usually it's by somebody that they trusted. And that's usually the key. It's somebody that gets in to know you, trust you. Oh, let me help you out. Oh, don't worry about that. I'm going to take care of it. I once had a case. I defended a lady who had was working as a bookkeeper, and she was a bookkeeper for a small landscaping company, I believe is what it was. It was small, but it was a couple-man show, and the owner-operator was busy. He had a couple of employees, but he was busy running his business. So he hired somebody to help in the office and to pay the books and to pay the bills and et cetera, et cetera. And to make a long story short, one day he realized, oh my gosh, the bills aren't getting paid. Where's all the money? And it turned out that the, woman was embezzling large sums of money. And the man who had owned his company, had multiple employees, literally lost everything. He had creditors. They took back his equipment that he had purchased and bought, trucks like that, to do his company. His mortgage wasn't getting paid, but everything was being routed to his, to the bookkeeper. And he literally lost everything. And, the lady was not very sympathetic about it. And I think she got probation because, after all, it wasn't really a financial crime. No big deal. Things happen. I once had a lady, once again, she had access to somebody's accounts, kind of a general runner for a very successful individual. And when, they found out all the problems, the woman's general excuse in court was, well, the guy was so rich, and, he was, this is like 25 years ago, I think. And, she's like, well, the kids were spending $10,000 to $20,000 a month at school every day or every month. So, what was a few $1,000s here and there? And this woman used it on buying lingerie. She got a breast augmentation, and she gambled. That's what she spent the money on. And of course, like most things, when you're stealing the money, you don't realize how quickly it all adds up, that she did not realize that it was quickly amounting to six figures. And but for the mercy of the person that she stole from, who was very successful, and in all honesty, it was a trickle in his money stream, so to speak. But he showed her mercy. The judge didn't. The judge gave her some jail as a condition of probation. She had to pay restitution. But the thing that was most impactful was the loss of trust that he had. He truly trusted this young woman, and she took advantage of it. And like I said, speaking from own personal decisions, I had an office manager, he was supposedly paying my personal bills and everything was going to him, and I was busy. And come to find out one day he's gone, and guess what? So is all the money. And it is a terrifying moment. You feel stupid as all get up. Like, I cannot believe I just got swindled by somebody I knew, I trust. I should know these things. And then you realize, all right, gotta suck it up. Let's get all the information, contact the police. And my bookkeeper, he got 8 years in prison for stealing from me. And so I gotta, it's not just it's a nonviolent crime. It can affect everyone. I remember the look. I have an associate attorney that was still with me, but he had a young child on the way. He had, he had two kids and one of them, and he looked at me when all this is going on, and he just looked at me as like, everything's going to be okay, isn't it? And I was just like, of course it is. Don't worry about it. I had no idea how bad it was. So, fortunately I was able to power through that situation. But, there were a couple of dark moments there where you didn't know what the heck was going on. And I assure you, your trust levels go way down at that point, and you trust, you check your bank accounts multiple times throughout the day just to make sure money is there. And so, yeah, it hurts. And yeah, and as Peaches says, it's a shame that, they stole from the families, Barry Morphew. So going back to old Barry Morphew. So it's not a victimless crime. And then if you saw him talk, right, the statement in allocution, fundamental in our law, defendant always has the right to say something. It's usually the last word before the judge imposes sentence.
You meant Alec Murdaugh. You said Barry Morphew.
Oh, did I say Barry Morphew? I'm sorry. Alec Murdaugh. Alec Murdaugh had a statement in allocution today. Barry Morphew is completely innocent, and charges were dismissed. So I misspoke. Alec Murdaugh spoke in his statement of allocution. Statement of allocution is the last word before the judge imposes sentence. The defendant can get up and say anything they want. Normally, you get up and you say, "I'm sorry," and you leave it at that. In typical Alec Murdaugh fashion, in typical con man fashion, Alec Murdaugh could not get up and say, "I'm sorry to all the people that trusted me, to all the people that thought that I was not only their attorney, but their friend. I apologize. Fortunately, there's lots of insurance and the firms are going to pay, and basically no one will be out much money. Because fortunately, the syndicate, the sham that Alec Murdaugh was running came about because of that little old boat accident. A little old boat accident about 3 years ago when his son hit that pillar down there in Beaufort, South Carolina, down by the causeway for Paris Island. And Mallory Beach got thrown from the boat and ultimately died, and they discovered her body. That's what started all of this in motion. And so obviously, it's sad that Mallory Beach lost her life, but maybe some greater good came of all of this, because it really was the opening of this whole case against Alec Murdaugh. And now, let's face it, he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. Now, Alec Murdaugh, like I said, his statement of allocution, what did it go on? 30 minutes, Frank? I think he said, the attorney said, it's 5 minutes. And they said, oh, no, maybe 10. And he just couldn't stop talking. He just can't stop. He can't help himself. He's such a con man. He's such a manipulator.
Yeah, no.
He just thinks he can, if he keeps talking, he keeps schmoozing,
Wow.
he can just keep going. And
Incredible.
the judge, basically compared him to a guy that he had sentenced to death years and years ago. And he wrote a memorandum saying, I don't think he should get death. But basically, he came to the conclusion the guy had no soul. And basically, that's what the judge said about Alec Murdaugh, because he just has no soul. He just lies. He just lies. And, to his attorney's credit, I get it. Somebody's got to represent the guy. I'm sure he is the biggest pain in the butt client there possibly is. I mean, let's face it, they've made a ton of money on this. Probably, we know the trial, they got $600,000 for it from his retirement funds to try the case. But that was like for a 2-week trial, and it went 6 weeks. So in the big picture, they probably lost money, but they still probably made out okay. In the long run, I'm sure the publicity, all that good stuff, they're going to do okay. Because clearly they're probably not getting paid to wrap all these cases up, but they're going to stick it out through the end. Alec Murdaugh still has the sentencing coming up in the federal system for all the federal wire fraud crimes that he committed as well. So he's never getting out of prison. There's some question whether the federal stuff is going to be concurrent with the state stuff. We'll see. Normally, the state goes concurrent with the feds because he's not in primary federal custody, but it doesn't really matter because he's got 2 life sentences. So the reality of it is he's not going anywhere. And today it was a wired 27-year deal. Alec Murdaugh probably could say whatever he wanted, but the judge was still going to go along with the agreement. The judge could have rejected, Judge Newman could have rejected the 27 years. He chose not to get this case over with. I mean, it's not a whodunit. We know he didn't. They're never going to get restitution from him directly. It's going to come from insurance companies. It's going to come from his law firm. The people that, once again, trusted him get screwed. So, assuming he gets a new trial, assuming his murder case goes away, at his age, I think he's 52 now, maybe 54, 27-year sentence. It's effectively a life sentence. He's got to serve 85%. So for rounding, easy numbers, 30 years, 85%, that's 8.5. So he's going to serve 24, 22 before he's eligible, assuming he gets out, right? And assuming all the plans would have to align for Alec Murdaugh, and I don't think they're going to align for Alec Murdaugh. And I feel bad, kind of for his son Buster, who, kind of seems to have maybe inherited a little bit of his dad's, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit of his dad's, he got kicked out of law school for cheating. So, take that for what it is. I don't think Buster will ever practice law in the state of South Carolina or anywhere for that. Would you trust him? I don't know. It's not him, it's his dad. But either way, he's not going to be there. But I do like, if you notice the courtroom here today, and this is what I love about this judge. The cameras were allowed. They did focus on Murdaugh when he was talking on his face. Why wouldn't they? And at one point near the end, he had a pen in his hand and he was like flicking the pen on the table. But he was able, I just don't understand in other jurisdictions why, specifically Idaho, why there's such a big problem with cameras in the courtroom. All they have to look at the Alec Murdaugh case is and see that it worked out just fine. Here, I got an idea. Don't show the jurors. There you go. That was it. And I think there was an inadvertent thing in the Murdaugh trial where they inadvertently showed the jurors shuffling in at some point. So what? They all went on TV, the following weeks after the verdict anyway. So what's the big deal, right? So I just don't understand how this could be so difficult in other jurisdictions, and they get it right in South Carolina. Now, did you notice the courtroom in South Carolina today? I'm telling you, there's something about courtrooms in South Carolina. This was a nice, beautiful one there in Beaufort, South Carolina. One of the most beautiful courtrooms I've ever been in my life was in Charleston, South Carolina. And this was a magistrate's courtroom. It was amazingly beautiful. Just gorgeous. I think we've shown pictures of it before. But, you know, it goes back to tradition. The courthouse was supposed to be grand. People are supposed to, you know, respect what's taking place in there. People dressed, you know, to go to court. You should see what I was chatting with an attorney today, and we were just like shocked and appalled what some of the attorneys are wearing to court today. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It's so bad. I just want to, you know, make Scott the fashion police and let them know you can't wear that. Okay. You cannot wear a purple suit. Purple suit I saw yesterday in court. Purple. What attorney gets up in the morning, walks out the door, and thinks he's looking good and appropriate in a purple suit, and he had on like Halloween socks with his suit and shoes that look like they hadn't been polished in years. They need to go to the cobbler. I was embarrassed for the attorney. I couldn't believe it. We need to go to how to dress when going to court 101 for these young attorneys today. But there today in Alec Murdaugh's case, all those attorneys in suits, right? You don't wear sport coats to court, ladies and gentlemen. I know some of the prosecutors like to do that, like to be casual Friday or something. No, you don't wear a sport coat. You wear a suit. You wear a suit, and you wear black shoes, lace-ups, or, you know, maybe a nice pair of loafers or something. But I've seen people, and what is it with, not with suits, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm going to probably offend somebody here, but I'm telling you, this new trend of wearing suits with like these tennis shoe type things, no. That should be against the law. Seriously. If I showed up in a suit wearing tennis shoes, they would laugh at me. They would not take me seriously. And I don't know. And I achieved a great compliment the other day. There was a public defender that was in a courtroom, said somebody was looking for you. And I said, okay, who was it? And they said, well, okay, well, and I told him, he looks like a lawyer. I'm like, well, what is that supposed to mean? She's like, well, look at you. You're, you know, middle-aged white guy, white shirt, blue pinstripe suit. I'm like, well, thank you. I mean, I look like a lawyer. That's the whole point. Like, you know, I'm not wearing a purple suit because let's face it, my client may not, you know, the one's going to be sitting next to me in trial. Let's face it, may not be the most likable guy in the courtroom. So let's not give him another reason to dislike me by, you know, wearing an offensive suit or wearing inappropriate shoes to court, right? We don't need the fashion police arresting Scott as he gets ready to jump up and do his opening statement. Not going to happen. So, all right, take a quick break. We'll be right back.
As a pet owner, you want to give your furry friend the very best. That's why Baked in Colorado's CBD-infused dog treats are the perfect choice. These delicious treats not only taste great, but they also provide a wide range of health benefits for your pet. CBD has been shown to have many positive effects on dogs, including reducing anxiety, alleviating pain and inflammation, and improving overall wellness. Baked in Colorado's treats are infused with premium, full-spectrum CBD oil, meaning your pet will benefit from the whole plant extract. Not only that, but Baked in Colorado's treats are made with all-natural human-grade ingredients, so you can feel good about what you're giving your pet. They're also free from wheat, corn, and soy, making them a great option for dogs with food sensitivities. Baked in Colorado CBD-infused dog treats are the perfect way to support your pet's health and well-being. With various flavors, including peanut butter, pumpkin, and bacon, your dog will love them too. So why wait? Head to www.bakedincolorado.com today and order your dog a bag of these delicious and nutritious treats. Your pet will thank you for it.
All right, we are back. All right, let's talk about the Suzanne Morphew case. Now, obviously, we brought you the story, I guess it's been about 2 months ago, that Suzanne Morphew's remains were discovered about 50 miles from where her bike was found, which was, a couple of miles from her house. Now, I think it's reasonable to assume that Suzanne Morphew, assuming she fell down that ravine on her bike, that she did not low crawl some 50 miles in the woods where her body was ultimately found in a neighboring county. I think we can reasonably assume foul play had taken place. So let's go back. Mother's Day, 2020. Suzanne Morphew disappears. All right. Ultimately, like I said, it's been 3.5 years. Barry Morphew was charged back in 2021 with his wife's murder. Now, those charges were dismissed back in April of 2022 because, let's face it, the prosecution did not have enough evidence. It was a weak case. And I mean, the affidavit for arrest warrant was 122 pages long. I think we read most of it or part of it on the show at one point. And it was full of speculation, a bunch of inadmissible hearsay that would never make it into a court of law, speculation by the police officers that would never make it in a court of law. But the officers and the district attorney moved forward with the filing of those documents. Barry Morphew was arrested. He was ultimately given a bond. And then because of many, many discovery violations, and it looked like the court was going to punish the district attorney quite excessively, which was going to be well-deserved, the district attorney dismissed. And they said, you know what? We're getting real close to finding Suzanne's body. We think we know where it is because we've been following Barry Morphew. We have his truck data. We have his phone data. We think we know where her remains are. And so we're going to do that. We're going to refile if we get that body because, it's tough to prove a murder case without a body. Not impossible, but it certainly makes it much, much more difficult. So the prosecutors dropped that thing, we're going to save face. Well, little did they know that that Barry Morphew's attorney, Iris Itan, who I know professionally, I think we've had some cases together. Her law partner, or I think now former law partner, had many, many cases with her over the years. And I said, he's in good hands. These are very, very good attorneys. They're aggressive attorneys, and they get good results quite frequently. And so Iris Itan, called out the district attorneys for their lack of good work on that case. And then she filed a little complaint with the Office of Attorney Regulation, alleging that there was a bunch of prosecutorial misconduct that took place. And ultimately, Attorney Regulation said, we got this complaint, Ms. Stanley, district attorney, and guess what? We're going to need you to respond to this complaint where we believe that you engaged in misconduct, withholding evidence. Now, one of the complaints accused Ms. Stanley, the district attorney, of frequent communications with Mike King. He's the host of Profiling Evil. Now, full disclosure, we've been on Mike King's show. Mike King has been on our show. He was very aggressive. And I like Mike. He's a retired cop. Seems like a good guy. He was just trying to get to what he believed was the truth. And the district attorney thought that it would be okay to go talk about the case. And I thought, that's unbelievable. I can't believe she's doing that at the time. Go look at the video. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe that she was out there on a podcast doing that. And part of the complaint against the district attorney was that when Mike King speculated that Barry killed Suzanne in their hot tub, Linda Stanley replied, "We know it wasn't bloody. The hot tub was drained with crust around the drain areas, indicating it had not been used in a long time. But keep spinning ideas in your brain." The district attorney appeared on the show back in August of 2021 to discuss the case and allegedly made the statements in the online comment section after the podcast had actually ended and she was using her real username. She was also in contact with another true crime podcasting show where when asked if Barry Morphew might flee, she apparently said possibly. The complaint also alleges that the district attorney failed to share discovery, including DNA match evidence, which the defense in a timely manner, among many other accusations of misconduct. Now, as you may recall, there was evidence of DNA that was found in the the glove box, and I believe it came back to a registered sex offender in Arizona. That's exculpatory, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, the prosecution always has to turn over any evidence that could reduce the exposure as well as the punishment to any defendant. So, if you're accusing the husband, in this case Barry Morphew, that they did accuse Barry Morphew of murder, and then you find the car and you say, that's weird. Her car has some strange DNA in it. That's awfully odd. That's exculpatory, ladies and gentlemen. That's potential alternate suspect. That could be the real killer. You have to consider that. The district attorney has a duty to turn that over. And when they don't do that, they are violating the rules of ethics of a prosecutor. And frankly, that gets you disbarred. It's serious stuff. And the problem is it happens way too often. Now, I'd like to think it doesn't happen as much as it used to, given technology today. There's so much information. Most things are videotaped. You have body cams from the start that the police show up to when they transport somebody from the crime scene to the police station. The interrogation is videotaped. And you've seen the allegations of, they beat me into the confession going way down because we got the videotape. I mean, basically the whole process is covered. It's not a bad idea, right? And I remember it used to always be a great cross-examination. You didn't record the video, did ya, officer? Oh, you don't have that technology, I see. Couldn't you get a camcorder? Oh, well, certainly you probably recorded it, didn't you? And they'd be like, no, I didn't do it. Oh, you don't have any tape recorders at the police department either? No. Well, you could have recorded it on your phone, couldn't you? Well, I didn't think of that. Oh, really? Well, you certainly, as a police station, regardless if we don't have any money for all those fancy, DVRs and tape recorders and even your phone, certainly you had a pencil and paper where you could have had, the client put it in his own words, I confess I did it, but you didn't. So we just have to take your word. The same guy that doesn't have enough forethought to say, I should probably record this. I should probably have a witness. So there's no doubt as to what took place here in this courtroom or in that interrogation room. And you can come to court and explain it. But you didn't do that. Not even a piece of paper. Couldn't even get a piece of paper, could ya? That was great cross-examination. Now, what they do, the prosecutors like to do when you go to court, is you'll have the client say, well, yeah, I was there. It's on video, for God's sakes. I was there, yeah, but I didn't do it with self-defense. And then they try to cherry pick and say, well, you can't allow in the defendant's statement because, that's a self-serving hearsay. And you're like, oh, nope. It's called rule of completeness. You can't cherry pick little things from that statement that you like and ignore that you don't like. And you can do that. I once had a homicide case, and everybody's pushing the limits. It was high stakes. And the prosecutor, once again, kind of cherry picked some stuff. And, you did this, you did this. And I said, well, you also, when I was in my cross-examination, well, officer, the client also said this and this and this, didn't he? And I sat down, and the DA got up and said, Your Honor, may we approach? We're going to introduce his entire statement because the defense brought in all this stuff and blah, 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 blah. And the judge, who's a great judge, still is a great judge, looked at the prosecutor and said, really? Because I didn't hear you objecting. So, no, you're not going to get to do that, because if you thought it was inappropriate what he was doing, you object in a timely manner. You don't set it up so that you can bring in the information that you don't think, or I order that doesn't come in. So the judge ruled on in his favor. So that's what they try to do now. They try to limit it. And, sometimes you see attorneys like, hey, I mean, you're talking about somebody's life, man. We're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. You got to go for it. You got to go for it sometimes. So that's the new thing now, so to speak. So anyway, exculpatory evidence. Prosecutors have to turn it over. Linda Stanley's office didn't. Apparently, her office is and I haven't been to the office that she is currently running. I was there, probably a decade ago. Not a big deal. It was in and out kind of situation, but it's, it sounds like it's very underfunded. They have very inexperienced prosecutors. That's what she blames kind of the whole situation on. But as you may recall, Linda Stanley brought in former prosecutors that had handled tough cases. One of them actually handled the Kobe Bryant case in Vail many, many years ago. And I think he was ultimately the one that said, hey, you got to dump this thing because it is garbage. But that's speculation on my part. And you know how we feel about speculation. Needless to say, Barry Morphew case was dismissed. And then guess what? Irish ITAN teams up with some civil lawyers, and they sue the district attorney, the prosecutors, the investigators for violating Barry Morphew's constitutional rights as well. And I'm telling you, those police officers, they played dirty. I mean, they suspected Barry Morphew from the beginning. And they're like, hey, we'd like to come over to get to know you a little bit better. And, just see how you're doing as it relates to, Suzanne's missing. In the meantime, they're literally trying to befriend him to see if they could get information out of him that maybe he'll reveal something. These guys were playing dirty. It is disgusting what they did. And, what can I say? Do I think he's going to get $15 million? I don't know, but he may get something. I think the county may settle it at some point, particularly if they find that the prosecutor committed some type of misconduct. And he did spend, 60 days in jail, maybe a little bit more. What do you think each day in jail is worth if you've been wrongfully accused and should not have been there? Well, judge found probable cause. So he's not going to get that. Maybe he's going to get his legal fees back. I don't know. Violation of constitutional rights. You get the attorney's fees. We'll see where things go, but I think it's gonna go well for Barry Morphew. He was always given the presumption of innocence, and it was funny because I went to a cocktail party, and one of Barry Morphew's defense attorneys was there, and we were talking. She goes, hey, you still doing your podcast? I said, I sure am. She goes, well, I didn't know you were doing it, but when the Morphew case was going on, I had to watch it. They're trying to see if I was, disparaging him or something. I said, hey, I think we were pretty fair, and we gave him the presumption of innocence. And I always said very nice things about you as the defense attorneys on the case. And she agreed. She said, no, you were very fair throughout that. So that's good. I mean, you have to be, fair, right? You have to look at the facts. What have we talked about? Fact-driven, unbiased. Yeah, I can give my opinion. Say, I think they're going to lose. I don't think that's unbiased. I mean, we give you the facts. You make the decision. This is mine. You let me know if you agree or disagree with me. I'm not telling you have to buy my opinion. You must follow it. If you don't agree with whatever I say, you must not follow my channel. No, I don't No, frankly, if you disagree with me, bring it on. We'll highlight you in the comment section. You'll go first. Tell me why. Maybe you'll change my mind. I don't think Barry Morphew will ever be charged in this case. This is my prediction. I think this case will go cold unless for some reason that DNA profile maybe leads to something. And who knows, maybe, like I said, I hate to speculate. Maybe that person had nothing to do with it. Maybe he, worked at the car dealership. Maybe he worked at a gas station where she was. Maybe the car wash, got her car done. Who knows why that DNA would be there? We don't know. We don't know exactly who it is. But I'm sure the police have talked to the guy, and if they thought that they could prove that he was the person that did something to Suzanne Morphew, they would probably do it. But they probably can't say when it got there and under what circumstances. So, like I said, I think Barry Morphew will never be charged with this case again, short of somebody else coming forward and said, "Hey, I did it." And Suzanne Morphew had a boyfriend as well. I mean, you could go off on all kinds of tangents. Maybe the boyfriend did it. Maybe the wife of the boyfriend. Who knows? It could be any reason. You just don't know. And there's certainly not evidence to support that Barry Morphew did it. I think it's far-fetched. I think a lot of people on that case got way over their skis. And like I said, we've been on Mike King's show. We haven't talked to Mike in quite a while. We used to go on other people's shows quite a bit, but I think I upset a couple people because I basically said that a lot of their theories were ridiculous. It would never stand up in a court of law. And suddenly I stopped getting invited on all their other podcasts. But that's okay, because I'm not here to be some yes man to do that. So I guess we haven't had them on their shows either in a while, either way. All right, let's take a quick hard break, and then we'll be back. Please go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for a background subscription service. You'll be happy you did. If there's anyone out there you were ever curious about what was in their background, now is the time to do it. If you're going to get involved with somebody, now is the time to do it. When you go to crimetalksearch.com, you put in the name, literally millions of public records are searched, and a report is generated. And it's going to give you a report. If they have multiple social media accounts, you're going to find it. If they have multiple phone numbers, multiple email addresses, it's going to be found. And more importantly, you're going to get information regarding criminal history. Hopefully the person you're searching has none whatsoever. But if it's there, it's going to be found. You're going to get everything you'd want to know, whether you're going into business or whether you're going into a personal relationship. You're going to be able to find out the information you want to know. So go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up today. You'll be happy you did. All right, we are back, and I want to get a end on kind of a good note, right? Oh, we got some super chats we can take, Frank?
Yeah.
All right. We don't ask and beg for super chats, but let's just say that they do help us highlight them in the comment section so we can see it. So Clumsy Clairvoyance, thanks for the super chat. Scott, how do you feel about the Delphi case? It's wild. The Delphi case is turning into a big dumpster fire. Okay. You got Richard Allen, who's charged as the suspect with killing Abby and Libby, 5 years ago now? So he gets arrested. Five years goes by. He tells the people, I was there just walking around that day on that bridge. What a coincidence. Kind of fits the build, right? The FBI doesn't realize it until basically they say, you know what? We're going to start from the beginning and we're going to start all over again. And all of a sudden they realize, hey, we got a guy that put himself right there that fits the general description. Let's go raid this guy's house. Oh, guess what? And they happen to find the same caliber pistol of firearm of an unspent bullet. They match up that bullet to that firearm. They say, oh my God, here's our guy. So they appoint a new judge who's supposed to come in, going to be a great judge, going to take control of the courtroom. This is a high-profile case, and this court's going to take control. Blah, 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 right? And then we get a couple of attorneys appointed, and, they need time. They say, first we're going to look into this. We're going to do what we need to do. I get that. That's all great. And then they come up with their motion for a Franks hearing, basically saying that the police, the investigators in the case, completely botched it up because of the investigation. They ignored obvious information of this Odin sex ring that may have members in the state police, the Indiana Department of Corrections, and they go from there. And although we didn't read the motion filed by Attorney Rossi and Baldwin in its entirety, we read a lot of it. They talked about Odinites and the concealing of it. And I think one night we read, it was like some 36 pages. And it basically is a preview of the cross-examination of all these witnesses. Okay, so let me get this straight. One person did all this, and they did this, this, and this. It's just factually impossible for them to do it. It was great cross-examination. And apparently the judge didn't like it. And apparently somebody, a former office mate that we talked about the other day, of office employee, comes by one of the attorney's offices, takes some photographs of the crime scene. They get released to some other guy who gives them to another guy, and a whole investigation. The one guy's been charged with a misdemeanor, conversion, fancy word for theft. He's charged with a misdemeanor for taking the photographs of somebody. No big deal. Whatever. Would you have taken the picture if you were there? I mean, seriously. Like, hey, here's the picture that everybody wants to see. Take a picture of it. Would you have done it? Would you not? I don't know. I don't think I would do it. If it was like a friend of mine, no. But if I just happened to walk down the street and there was like a picture of that particular, well, I may take a picture of that, right? I don't think I want to get my friend in trouble. That's for sure. Well, they did. So the judge calls this emergency press conference meeting. I'm joking when I say press conference, but emergency in-chambers meeting prior to the motions hearing date. And basically the Judge Francis C. Gull, fires the attorneys and says they're a bunch of incompetent boobs. And like, I'm going to give you the pleasure of withdrawing now, so I don't have to embarrass you in front of everybody saying that you're incompetent. And you committed gross negligence in the representation of Mr. Allen on this case. Attorneys go, we read you the transcript. They go talk to Mr. Allen. He wants them to stay on the case. Baldwin and Rossi, but they ultimately withdraw. A couple days go by, and even though the attorneys, we read you the transcript, they talk about, hey, this doesn't seem right, Judge. You're basically accusing us of crime. We're a little bit of due process here. If we don't fight back, I mean, what are we supposed to do? We got a, presumption of innocence. So a couple of days go by, and the attorneys, who are now fired because two other attorneys have been appointed to represent Mr. Allen, file an extraordinary writ to the Indiana Supreme Court saying, hey, Judge, you can't do that. Supreme Court, tell Judge Francis C. Gull that she cannot do this to us. We have a right to represent Mr. Allen. He wants us to represent him, and the court is violating his speedy trial rights by appointing new counsel, which effectively waives his right to speedy trial, and they won't be ready to go because we spent the last year preparing on this particular case. The Attorney General and the judge filed their responses. They released the transcript of the in-chamber hearing, which we read to you the other night. I thought it was rather interesting. Never seen anything like that before, but I've never been accused of incompetence by a judge, so maybe that's the reason why I've never seen anything like that before. The judge states in her brief that the reason she did this is not to violate Mr. Allen's constitutional rights, but she's trying to protect his constitutional rights because she believes the attorneys committed grievances, ethical violations worthy of a grievance, as well as gross incompetence, and that they're incompetent. One could also say she didn't like the arguments that they were making because it made the police look really bad. And let's face it, there are many judges who love working with the police and will do anything to protect incompetence on the part of the police. And if the judge doesn't like their theory that the Odinites did this in some sort of ritualistic killing to Abby and Libby, well, guess what? That's not her job to decide that if it's a good defense or bad defense. Her job is to call balls and strikes as a judge on the bench. She can deny the motion, say, I'm denying it, but I'm going to allow you to present your defense because it's based in some fact and it's a reasonable inference drawn from the evidence or lack thereof. So we're still waiting on the Indiana Supreme Court. And the Attorney General piped in and said, hey, judge did everything right. The defendant has no right to counsel of choice since they're court appointed, and the judge was just protecting his rights. The Public Defenders Association there in Indiana filed also an amicus brief with the Indiana Supreme Court saying, hey, Judge, the court cannot interfere with the attorney-client relationship like this. If Mr. Allen wants his attorneys, he gets them. His attorneys may be incompetent, but guess what? He's entitled to counsel of his choosing once he has them, even court appointed. So we'll have to wait and see. It is what it is. So yes, that case is turning into a dumpster fire indeed. All right, so I want to end on a good note here. You know, I always like to try to do a dumb criminal of the day, and I saw this story the other day. A retired Florida man, apparently more food crime, ladies and gentlemen. Stop the madness. We don't need to throw food at people, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, didn't your parents ever tell you kitchen table? You know, you don't throw food. Don't pick food up with your fingers. You don't throw it at people. So anyway, the 75-year-old guy threw a pack of Oreos at his wife, causing his wife, who's also 75, to fall to the ground, according to the police. The woman said that she and the accused, John Sandoval, he's 70, got into a verbal argument in reference to the coffee maker not having any water in it. Seems like a reasonable conversation in the morning. I thought you were going to fill it up last night. No, I thought you were going to fill it up. You know, you don't do anything around here anyway. At least you could do is fill up the coffee maker. I can hear it now, right? So anyway, this quarrel took place. The couple dispute turned violent, according to the affidavit for arrest warrant, when Mr. Sandoval threw a package of Oreo cookies, hitting her in the chest, causing her to fall. Can you imagine the force upon which the Oreo cookies had to have been thrown to make her fall to the ground? Oh my God. It should be a felony. Those Oreos are a deadly weapon at that point, no doubt. Anyway, during the police questioning, Mr. Sandoval said his wife was yelling at him when he picked up a package of cookies and he threw it at her. Well, not good for the court case. Good mitigation to the judge at sentencing. And, you know, maybe you got a loophole, though, because the police did not collect the Oreos. It's unclear whether they even photographed the Oreos. But we have Mr. Sandoval admitting that there are Oreos. Had he kept his mouth shut, one of those defense attorneys could say, oh, really, officer? It isn't even on your body cam, is it? And you didn't have him write out the confession, did you? No, it was on body cam, right? Anyway, he's been charged with battery on a person 65 years or older, making her an at-risk adult. So yes, it does turn out to be a felony because of her age, at-risk adult. Anyway, he had to post a $2,000 bond and no contact with his spouse. So apparently, after posting that $2,000, not being able to go back to your own home suddenly makes you wonder, you know, why didn't you just fill up the coffee maker the night before? Just fill it up. Let it go. Is it really worth going to jail for? I don't think so, let alone a felony. And yeah. So just something to think about, ladies and gentlemen. Oftentimes you have to let it go. And so many times, how many I can't even even think of it. How much food crime is there? Food should not be the weapon of choice. Okay? And all the people get so upset about their food. And it's usually like drive-through food. It's not like you're going to a Michelin 5-star restaurant and the chef makes a terrible meal. You have a right to be upset at that point because, it's what, like $1,000 a plate? We're talking about somebody, usually upset that their fries didn't come with their burger at McDonald's. What are we talking, $12? And then they go commit felonies by attacking people. It's just nonsense. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know they could probably make some Snickers commercials about people getting hangry and committing food crime. Maybe we should do that, Frank. We should tell Snickers we can come up with some hangry circumstances where if they just ate a Snickers bar, there'd be no need to create food crime. And then you have to make yourself a contestant for the dumb criminal of the day. And also, Frank, before we leave, you know what time it is? It's getting close to the end of the year. You know what that means? Dumb criminal montage.
Yes, that's correct.
The dumb criminal montage. We may have to try to find at least the 10 best and narrow it down so we can actually get a dumb criminal winner of the year. Maybe a quick follow-up as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is our live show. If you'd like to join us for our Patreon show, there is a link down below. Super inexpensive to become a Patreon, and you get all kinds of free, cool stuff to be a Patreon that we send to you. Like, you ever want to know what are all those objections that Scott keeps talking about? Even though he explains all this complex legal stuff so clearly and concisely, I would like to study it at home. So if I'm watching that other channel and I don't have Scott there to explain it, I would sure like that evidentiary guide that Scott has, because boy, that's really valuable. We'll give it to you. Just become a Patreon member. And we do the Patreon, guess what? We also get to do the call-in. And don't forget, we also do what's gotten me through most of my life. When you have all the big questions, you're not sure how to proceed, ask the Magic 8 Ball. Patreon will ask the Magic 8 Ball the question of the night. Of course, the question is going to come from our Patreon members. So we'll see you in just a few minutes. All our Patreon numbers. For everyone else, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.